Who stole Evita's body? Although Maria Duarte de Perón, known throughout the world as Evita, lived in the limelight only briefly, her impact on Argentine politics was enormous, and it continues today, more than 5 decades after her death. Her memory is zealously protected. In the 1996 film of the stage musical Evita, starring Madonna, provoked outrage among many Argentines who felt the sacrilegious pop star was sullying the name of their heroine. Evita was venerated by the Argentine working class. She was mocked by the grand dames of Buenos Aires society and misunderstood by the military establishment. Through all of this, she came to symbolize a wealthy Argentina full of pride and with great expectations following World War II. Her meteoric rise from her beginnings as a poor villager in the backwaters of the interior to a status as one of the most intriguing and engaging and powerful figures in a male-dominated culture is a tale worth retelling. You see, Evita was born in the squalid village of Los Toldos in 1919. She was one of 5 illegitimate children her mother bore to Juan Duarte. After her father's death, her family moved to the provincial town of Junin under the patronage of another one of her mother's benefactors. And it was in Junin that Evita, at the age of 14, became determined to be an actress. In the company of a young tango singer, she ran off to Buenos Aires, the cultural mecca of Latin America, where she faced almost insurmountable odds in landing jobs in the theater. Her opportunities took a dramatic leap forward when a rich manufacturer fell for her and provided her with her own radio show. Shortly thereafter, Evita's voice became a regular feature on the airwaves of Radio Argentina and Radio El Mundo. Evita's energy was boundless. Her work pace became frenetic, and she made powerful friends. Her lack of acting talent and sophistication did not seem to hinder her ability to attract important people to her cause. Among her admirers were the President of Argentina and, more importantly, the Minister of Communications, Colonel Imbert, who controlled all radio stations in the whole country. Evita met Colonel Juan Domingo Perón, the reputed power behind the new military government, at a fundraising event for victims of the devastating 1944 San Juan earthquake. And she left the event on the widowed colonel's arm, despite being exactly half Perón's age, 48 years when they met. Evita assisted his rise to power in ways that were beyond the imagination of even the most astute politician. When Perón became Minister of Labor and Welfare, Evita convinced him that his real power base should be the previously ignored masses of laborers living in the horrible squalors, the horrible villages, the miserables, or called the slums. The slums that still ring the capital city. A stream of pronouncements issued forth from the ministry, instituting minimum wages, better living conditions, salary increases, and protection from employers. Additionally, and most brilliantly, Perón won the support of the giant Confederation General del Trabajo, or General Confederation of Labor, which embraced many of the trade unions. In the process, however, recalcitrant labor leaders were picked up by the police and they were sent to prisons in Patagonia. It was not long before Evita called Perón's constituency in to help him. In 1945, an army coup was on the point of success when Evita called in all her chips and favors. So upwards of 200,000 descamisados, the shirtless ones, entered the capital city and demanded that Perón be their president. The colonel accepted the mandate of the Argentine people, so Evita, now married to Perón, cemented their ties with the workers by establishing the Social Aid Foundation. Through this charity, scores of hospitals and hundreds of schools were built, nurses were trained, and money was dispensed to the poor. Evita also formed the first women's political party, the Peronista Feminist Party. Although a cult was developing around her personality, she always told the people in her countless speeches that all credit should go to her husband, and that she would gladly sacrifice her life for him, as they should sacrifice theirs. Perhaps Evita's first hour, and her finest hour, came with her long tour of Europe, during which she met Franco, the director of Spain. Also she met Pope Pius XII and the Italian and French foreign ministers. She dazzled post-war Europe with her jewels and elegant gowns. Her rags to riches story was told and retold in the press, and she was even on the cover of Time magazine. Now on the negative side, Evita would take no criticism of her husband. You could not say a bad word about him. Newspapers were closed, careers destroyed, and opponents jailed on trumped-up charges. She could be extremely vindictive, never forgetting an insult, even if it lie years in the past. Family and friends were placed in positions well above their level of competency. The people's heroine was dying by 1952. Yes, she was a victim of uterine cancer, but she kept up her intense work schedule. During her last speech on May Day, her husband had to hold her up as she spoke to the Descamistados. Evita's death on July 26, 1952, brought the whole of Argentina to a standstill. Her body was embalmed, and at her wake, hundreds of thousands of people paid their last respects. But death brought no respite, however, and in 1955, Evita's corpse disappeared. Her corpse was stolen by the military after they had disposed Juan Perón. Her body was carried off to Germany and then Italy, where it was interned for 16 years under another name. But after many negotiations, her body was returned to her husband in Spain. Evita's long odyssey came to an end when Juan Perón died in Argentina in 1974. Evita's coffin was brought from Spain to lie in state next to the one she said she would die for. Even though efforts to have her canonized in Rome have been met with polite refusal, Evita still holds near saint status in Argentina. Graffiti proclaiming "Evita viva!" Evita lives can be seen everywhere in Argentina. At the Duarte family crypt in the Recoleta Cemetery, devotees still leave flowers and written tributes. In 2002, the Museo Evita opened in Palermo, housed in a former home for single mothers, ran by the Eva Perón Foundation. Evita's epitaph famously paraphrased in the Andrew Lloyd Webber Tom Rice rock opera Evita, and in Ellen Parker's subsequent film of the musical reads, "Don't cry for me, Argentina. I remain quite near to you." It still rings true. More than half a century after her premature death, they still love and venerate Evita. Viva la Vita! Now you know why she was loved so much. You see, she championed for the poor, for the forgotten, for the unloved, for the shirtless ones. Evita viva! Long live Evita! like, subscribe, think for yourself. This has been a Marilogic channel.